I was folding laundry when my mom called and ruined Christmas. My name's Tyler. I'm 35. I live just outside of Portland with my wife, Emma, and our two boys, Micah, 6, and Jonah, 4. Jonah is on the spectrum. He doesn't speak much yet, and loud noises bother him, but he's bright in his own way. He lines up his dinosaurs by color, taps out rhythms on the table that sync with music playing in the background, and hugs you like he means it. Micah's the classic big brother, protective, curious, a little too confident for his own good. They're both good kids, better than I probably was at their age. Anyway, I was in the middle of folding Micah's dinosaur pajamas when the call came in. Mom, my phone lit up. I wiped my hands on my jeans and picked up. It was Christmas morning. I figured it was the usual, a last-minute ask to bring the cranberry sauce, or maybe just a cheerful Merry Christmas and a reminder not to be late. But her tone wasn't cheerful. It was cautious. Hey, honey, she said. Her voice was tight, stretched too thin over something she didn't want to say. Morning, I said, cheerful enough for both of us. We're just getting dressed. The boys are bouncing off the walls. They've been up since 6. She hesitated. That's what I wanted to talk to you about. I paused. About the boys? About Christmas. She exhaled, and I could hear plates clinking in the background, the low murmur of conversation. We've set a special table this year. For the kids. Okay, I said, drawing the word out like a thread. For your brother's kids. You know they're older. They'll be at their own table, with games and coloring and, just a nice setup. I blinked. Cool. So you want Micah and Jonah at the main table? There was another pause. Longer this time. Well, she said carefully. We were thinking it might be better if Jonah sat with you. Or maybe not at the kids' table. Just so things don't get too disruptive. I felt the edge of the folded pajama top in my hands grow tighter. Disruptive? I mean, she said quickly. You know how Jonah gets when there's too much noise. Or if someone takes his toy. It's Christmas, Tyler. We don't want the other kids overwhelmed. I didn't respond. I just looked down at the pajamas and felt my jaw tighten. She continued, as if sensing the silence meant she needed reinforcements. Your brother's kids are used to certain routines. It's been a hard year for them with the move and the divorce, and then I heard it. A second voice, faint but unmistakable. My dad. He must have taken the phone or was standing nearby. Tyler, he said, loud enough now to be on speaker. Listen, it's probably best if you guys just sit this one out. You know? Less stress for everyone. Especially for Jonah. There it was. They said the quiet part out loud. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I didn't say what I wanted to. That they were treating my son like a problem. Like a messy corner they didn't want in their perfect little holiday setup. Instead, I just said, understood. Then I hung up. Calm. Controlled. Emma came down the stairs holding a wrapped gift. Everything okay? She asked, reading my face instantly. I lied. Change of plans. We're staying in this year. She tilted her head, eyes narrowing. Seriously? I forced a smile. Yup. Might be nice. Just us. We didn't tell the boys. We made cinnamon rolls, opened presents, and watched old cartoons in our pajamas. Jonah lined up his dinosaurs by the tree. Micah made them talk in silly voices. Emma put on Christmas jazz, and we danced in the living room. I tried to act like everything was fine, but I kept glancing at my phone. By noon, I had 31 missed calls, mostly from my parents. A few from my younger sister, Megan. 2 from my brother, David. There was a video chat request. I didn't answer. Then came the voicemail. I let it play once while sitting on the edge of the bed. Then I played it again, this time with my hands slowly covering my mouth. At exactly 47 seconds in, my dad said something that made the air go still. It wasn't loud. It wasn't shouted. It was calm, offhand, like he didn't even realize the weight of the words as they came out of his mouth. But I heard them, every syllable. And just like that, something inside me shifted. The part of me that always let things slide went quiet. And the part of me that kept receipts, that part woke up. I listened to that voicemail at least 10 more times. Each time, it hit a little harder. The part that got me wasn't even what he said, it was how he said it. Like it was normal. Like it was obvious. At 0:47, my dad chuckled. That's what made me look up. A quiet, dismissive laugh, like he was talking about someone else's problem. She should have known better than to let Tyler bring that kid, he said. I mean, the boy doesn't belong at a family gathering. Not like this. That kid. That boy. Not Jonah. Not his grandson. Just That kid. I sat there for a long time, phone in my lap, staring out the window at our snow-covered lawn while Micah raced a Hot Wheels car down the hallway. Emma peeked in once, saw my face, and didn't ask. She just quietly left a cup of coffee on the nightstand and walked away. The rest of the day passed in a blur. I smiled when I needed to, laughed when it felt right. But inside, something was unraveling. A thread that had been tugged at for years, slowly, invisibly, until now. By the time the boys went to bed and Emma curled up next to me with a book, I was already down a rabbit hole, listening to old voicemails, scrolling through years of group texts, looking back at birthday photos and realizing something I'd never fully seen before. Jonah was never really in them. Micah, yes. Micah was easy. He posed. He grinned. He said please and thank you and played nicely with his cousins. He fit. But Jonah? He was usually in the background. Sometimes not there at all. Sometimes cropped out. There was a picture from last Christmas. David and his kids sat at the center of the big dining table, all in matching red sweaters. Megan and her boyfriend were on one side, Mom and Dad on the other. Emma and I were near the end, smiling. Micah sat next to me with a candy cane in his hand. Jonah wasn't in the shot. I remembered that day. He'd had a meltdown when David's oldest son grabbed one of his toys without asking. The lights were too bright. The room was too loud. Emma had taken him into the den to calm down, and they missed dinner. No one brought them a plate. No one even noticed. I closed the photo app and stared at the dark ceiling. Everything started lining up like a crime scene wall. The little comments, the sudden schedule changes, the looks, and every time I convinced myself I was imagining it, that they were trying, that it was complicated, that family meant forgiveness. But now I wasn't so sure. The days after Christmas were radio silence. No apology, no explanation, just a few awkward texts from Megan, hey, you good? And Mom's been upset, followed by silence when I didn't respond. Then came New Year's Eve. Emma and I were settling in with popcorn and a Pixar movie when my phone buzzed. It was Megan again. Are you coming to Dad's birthday tomorrow? I stared at the message. January 1st. Right. Dad's birthday always got folded into the New Year's chaos. Usually a family dinner. Cake. A few toasts. The usual. Before I could reply, she sent another one. David said he's bringing the kids again. Just FYI. There was no apology in it. No awareness. Just logistics. Emma leaned over, reading the messages upside down. You're not actually considering going, right? I shrugged. Maybe. I don't know. She folded her arms. Tyler, I just want to see something, I said. She sighed. You mean you want to give them another chance? No, I said slowly. I want to confirm what I already suspect. So we went. We dressed the boys in nice clothes, button-downs, and little bow ties. We brought Jonah's noise-canceling headphones and his comfort toy, a squishy dinosaur with a fraying tail. Emma packed snacks and juice boxes, and I warned both kids that we might not stay long. When we arrived, David's Tesla was already parked outside, pristine and shiny in the driveway like a monument. His kids, Jackson and Lily, ran barefoot through the front yard, chasing each other with Nerf guns. David leaned against the porch railing, scrolling through his phone in a cashmere sweater. Tyler, he said without looking up. Hey. I gave him a nod. Hey. Inside, the house looked the same. Same decorations. Same furniture. But there was a weird energy. Mom greeted Micah with a hug and ruffled his hair, then looked at Jonah like she didn't know what to do with her hands. Jonah clung to my leg, squeezing the dinosaur. Hi, sweetie, she said to him, voice forced. Then she turned to Emma. There's some food in the kitchen if you want to grab a plate before it's gone. I think David's kids are watching a movie in the guest room. Emma nodded stiffly. The party was small, just us, David's family, Megan, and our parents. Casual. Low-key. Or so it seemed. When we went to sit down for dinner, I noticed the seating arrangements. Again, 3 tables. One large rectangle for the adults, one smaller table for David's kids, and a side table with a plastic folding chair next to the kitchen entrance. A paper plate with Jonah's name on it sat there. Not Micah's, just Jonah's. Emma and I locked eyes. My mom looked up from her seat. Oh, we figured Micah could sit with the cousins, right? And Jonah can be near you. That way if he needs space, he's not in the middle of everything. I said nothing, just sat. Emma took Jonah in her lap and quietly fed him from our plate. Micah sat with Jackson and Lily, clearly confused but too polite to say anything. At one point, he turned to us and whispered, "Can Jonah sit here too?" David overheard and chuckled. "Nah, buddy. Jonah likes his own little setup, remember?" I clenched my fork tighter. After dinner, while the kids played in the den and the adults chatted over coffee, Dad stood up to give a little birthday toast. Everyone gathered around. I stood in the corner, Jonah in my arms. "I just want to thank everyone for being here," Dad said. "Another year, another gray hair, but surrounded by the best family a guy could ask for." Megan smiled. David raised his cup. Mom dabbed her eyes. Then he added, "It's been a blessing watching the grandkids grow up. Jackson and Lily are just the light of our lives, aren't they?" Emma flinched next to me. And Micah, of course. Such a smart kid. Always curious, always polite. He didn't say Jonah's name. Not once. I felt Emma's nails dig into my arm. "Let's go," she whispered. But I stayed frozen. I couldn't move. Not yet. Then it happened. David laughed and said, "Micah's the only reason I haven't stolen Tyler's entire family. The kid's basically a mini Jackson at this point." The room laughed. Everyone but me. Then Mom turned to me, wine glass in hand, and said, "You and Emma really did good with Micah. You must have gotten lucky the second time." I felt the words hit like a slap. Lucky. The second time. Emma grabbed my arm. "Tyler." I held up a hand. "We're fine." "No, we're not," she snapped, grabbing the diaper bag. "We're done." She stormed out with both kids. I followed a few minutes later, after silently clearing our plates. No one stopped me. No one called after us. Not even my mother. The ride home was quiet. The kids fell asleep in the back seat. Emma stared out the window, her face set. "You still think you're imagining it?" she finally asked. "No," I said, "because I'm done pretending. I'm done being polite to people who treat our child like an afterthought." "I know," I said. "Do you?" Her voice cracked. "Because I feel like you keep waiting for them to wake up and see him. But they won't. They don't want to." I nodded slowly. "You're right. Something broke that night. The cord that had tethered me to some imagined version of my family. The one where I was the overlooked son, but still a son, still part of something, snapped." I spent the next week quietly removing myself from group chats. I unfollowed my parents on social media. I declined every call from Megan. I didn't answer when David texted, "Did you seriously ghost us over a birthday party?" I ghosted them because I needed space. But more than that, I needed to think. Because something had shifted. And for the first time, I wasn't just sad. I was angry. Not loud, messy anger. Not the kind that burns out fast. The quiet kind. The kind that plans. And when I say I started planning, I don't mean petty revenge. I mean something deeper. Something that would make them look at each other one day and ask, "When did we lose him?" And the answer would be Christmas morning. When they told me not to come. When they set a table for everyone but my son. And thought I wouldn't remember. I didn't realize how heavy it all was until I finally started putting it down. In the weeks that followed Dad's birthday, the silence between me and my family stretched out like a taut rope, ready to snap. I didn't return calls. I didn't reply to texts. And for once, I didn't feel guilty about it. I'd spent years doing what I thought was the right thing, biting my tongue, showing up, staying quiet so that everyone else could stay comfortable. But comfort had never been extended to Jonah. Or to Emma. Or to me, really. Still, there was a weight to the distance. Like I'd stepped off the edge of something familiar and was now floating through new air. Untethered. Unsure. It wasn't freedom yet. It was just space. And in that space, I began to see the full picture. The accumulation of small cuts I'd ignored for years, thinking they were part of being the black sheep. I wasn't always the outsider. Growing up, I was the firstborn, the quiet one, the one who followed the rules. David, 2 years younger, was the golden child, louder, funnier, star athlete. Megan, the baby, was doted on like a rare flower. I was somewhere in the middle, respected, but not celebrated. Expected to hold things together when things fell apart. Especially after my dad's back injury forced him into early retirement, and I took over helping with bills at 19 while working nights and attending college part-time. They all used to praise me for being so responsible. But responsibility without affection just starts to feel like being used. After Christmas and Dad's birthday, something inside me collapsed under the weight of years of being useful and invisible. I wasn't okay. I tried to fake it for the kids, but Emma saw through it. She always did. One night, after I sat on the couch staring blankly at a paused episode of a show I didn't care about, Emma knelt in front of me. "You've got to let yourself be angry," she said. "You keep trying to carry it like it didn't happen. But it did. And it hurt. You don't have to be fine yet." I looked at her. This woman who never once made Jonah feel like he was less than, who fought battles I didn't even see. And I broke. Not loudly. Not with tears and gasps. I just leaned forward, pressed my forehead to hers, and whispered, "I think I'm so used to being hurt by them that I stopped noticing." Emma held my hands and said nothing, just stayed there with me in the quiet. That moment cracked something open. I stopped pretending. I started writing everything down, not for them, but for me. Late nights, after the boys were asleep, I'd sit at the kitchen table and pour out every memory, every slight, every word that once seemed too small to mention, but now felt like part of a larger wound. I filled a notebook in 2 weeks. At work, I threw myself into projects. I was a systems analyst at a mid-sized firm, and I started taking on complex cases other people passed on. It wasn't about the job, it was about control. Solving problems no one else could solve made me feel useful again. Like I mattered. Like I wasn't invisible. Emma noticed. One night, she said, "You're working like you're trying to outrun something." "I am," I said. "What happens when it catches you?" I didn't answer. I didn't know. Then came Micah's school project. "I need to do a family tree," he said one afternoon, holding up a paper with a drawing of a big tree and empty spaces for names. I froze. He handed me a marker. "Can we start with you and Mommy?" I wrote our names. Then Jonas. Then his. Then he asked, "Should I put Grandpa and Grandma? Or just Mommy's side?" I looked up at him, his small face tilted in innocent curiosity, not knowing that question carried the weight of generations. "Let's just do Mommy's side for now," I said. Micah shrugged and colored in the leaves. That night, I looked at the paper again. All that blank space on my side of the tree. It didn't make me sad. It made me determined. If my family didn't want to see Jonah, if they couldn't handle the shape he took in this world, then fine. I'd build him a world that did. A tree with new roots. A foundation that didn't bend around other people's comfort. I started looking for local support groups. Found a dad's group for parents of neurodivergent kids. I didn't expect much. I figured I'd sit in the back, nod, maybe share a thing or two, and leave. But the first meeting changed everything. There were 5 of us, all dads, all tired in that deep, soul-level way. But they talked like I hadn't heard men talk before. Openly, vulnerably, honestly. They didn't sugarcoat things. One guy, Jamal, said his daughter hadn't slept through the night in 4 years. Another, Luis, said he'd lost 3 friends after they made a joke about his son acting like a robot. I shared my story too. Not the whole thing, just the Christmas morning call. The voicemail. The table without Jonah's name on it. Jamal nodded and said, "It's always the ones closest to you who want your kid to be easy. Not better. Not supported. Just convenient." I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. We met every 2 weeks after that. Some nights, we talked about meltdowns and IEP meetings. Other nights, we talked about dreams, things we wanted for our kids beyond just surviving. I started feeling less alone. More real. Like I wasn't just holding the pain in my chest anymore. I was turning it into something. Then, about 3 months after Christmas, I got a call from an old college friend, Ben, who worked at a tech nonprofit. He'd seen one of my LinkedIn posts about accessible design, something I'd started caring about more deeply since Jonah started using communication apps. And he said, "We're looking for someone to lead a project on adaptive interfaces for kids with sensory sensitivities." You popped into my head immediately. I almost said no. I almost defaulted to that old version of me, the one who played small so no one felt threatened. But I didn't. Instead, I said, "Tell me more." The project was intense. Grant-funded, high visibility, a lot of moving parts. I had to lead a team, present to stakeholders, and meet with families for user testing. It was work that mattered. Work that could change lives, including Jonah's. Emma supported me every step. She took on more at home, coordinated therapies, managed the chaos of raising 2 wild, beautiful boys so I could focus during the day. Sometimes I'd come home and just sit on the floor while Jonah climbed into my lap, his dinosaur tucked under one arm, and I'd think, they don't know this version of him. The quiet joy, the soft humming, the way he said dada, like it was a spell. They never tried to know him, but someone else would. At the 6-month mark of the project, we launched our beta interface. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. Kids responded well. One nonverbal girl used it to request her favorite snack for the first time. Another boy used it to ask for music, Beethoven, of all things. I cried in the parking lot that day, not because I was overwhelmed, but because for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. That weekend, Emma suggested we take new family photos. Just us. In the park near our house, under the cherry blossoms. We wore mismatched pastels, let the boys run wild, and asked the photographer to capture moments, not poses. When I saw the final shots, I felt something shift again. There was a photo of Jonah on my shoulders, arms raised, laughing. There was Micah pulling Emma by the hand through a field of flowers. There was me, standing still, holding all of it together, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I printed the photo of Jonah and me and put it on my desk at work. Then I printed another and mailed it in an envelope. No note, just the photo. To my parents' house. I don't know if they opened it. I don't care. This part wasn't for them. It was for me. Because by the time summer rolled around, I realized something that changed everything. I hadn't lost my family. I'd just finally seen them for who they were. And in doing so, I found the strength to build something better. Not in spite of the pain, but because of it. But just when I thought the distance had settled into something permanent, the silence broke. On Jonah's birthday, a small envelope in the mailbox. No return address. Inside was a card. Cheap, generic, with a teddy bear holding balloons. Inside, a single line. Let us know when we can meet him. For real this time. No signature. Just that. Emma found me holding the card and said, "Do you believe them?" I stared at the handwriting. Familiar. Hesitant. "I don't know yet," I said. But something told me. This wasn't an apology. It was a trap. And this time, I wasn't walking into it blindly. Because I had a plan. A quiet one. One they'd never see coming. I didn't respond to the card. Not right away. I set it down on the kitchen counter and watched it for 2 whole days like it might sprout teeth and bite me if I got too close. Emma asked once more if I wanted to talk about it, and when I didn't, she let it be. She knew I wasn't ignoring it. I was studying it, turning it over in my head the way a jeweler examines a stone for cracks. And there were plenty of cracks, starting with the fact that it wasn't signed. I knew that handwriting. It was my mom's. Careful, slightly tilted letters with the capital L leaning too far left. I'd seen it on birthday cards, report cards, and notes tucked in my lunchbox in the 2nd grade. It wasn't David's. It wasn't Megan's. And it sure wasn't my dad's. That man hadn't handwritten anything since the 90s. Let us know when we can meet him. For real this time. What did that even mean? For real this time? As if the last 6 years of Jonah's life were just a dress rehearsal. As if now, suddenly, they were ready to pretend they cared. Probably because they thought he'd grown out of it. Or because they felt the growing weight of their absence in the photo albums. Or maybe they just realized how quiet the house was with only David's kids visiting now and then. But their sudden curiosity didn't feel like growth. It felt like guilt wrapped in a paper-thin apology. Still, the message wasn't what lingered in my head. It was the timing. The card arrived the morning after I posted a photo of our family picnic on LinkedIn, a post that had unexpectedly gone semi-viral. It was just a casual snapshot. Jonah laughing with Micah, juice boxes and watermelon rinds scattered across a blanket. The caption was simple: "Different isn't less." Our boys remind us every day that love doesn't have a normal. Grateful for the journey, even the hard parts. I didn't expect much, but then came the comments. Hundreds, then thousands. Parents, teachers, siblings, neurodivergent folks themselves. The post got picked up by a nonprofit, and the photo ended up in a carousel of images celebrating Neurodiversity Awareness Week. And just like that, my inbox exploded. Then, magically, so did my parents' interest in meeting Jonah again. Coincidence? Maybe. But my gut said otherwise. And for once, I decided to trust my gut. I wasn't going to respond out of emotion. I'd done that before. It always ended the same: guilt, arguments, awkward silences. No, this time, I'd do things differently. I wasn't the same person they last dismissed. And Jonah sure wasn't the same silent toddler they shuffled to the side table. We'd changed, grown, leveled up, and they hadn't noticed. That was their first mistake. Their second mistake? Leaving it up to me when they could meet him. Because now I had time. Time to plan. Time to think. Time to remind them exactly what they missed and make sure they felt it. That was the setup. But before I could start, I needed allies. The first person I called was Megan. Not because I trusted her, but because I needed to know where she stood. She answered on the second ring, sounding surprised. Tyler. Hey, I said. Got a minute? Yeah, of course. Wow, I wasn't expecting. I mean, it's been a while. It has. There was a pause. I could hear the whirring of a dishwasher behind her. Maybe a television in another room. How's the family? She asked. Good. Busy. Jonah just turned 7. Wow. 7 already. I let the silence speak for itself. She cleared her throat. Listen, I know things got weird. I tried to call around Christmas, but I didn't know what to say. That's the thing, Meg. None of you ever do. I'm sorry, she said quietly. I really am. I believe you, I said. And in that moment, I did. Another pause. Then she asked, Did you get the card? I smirked. So it was you. No, she said. It was Mom. But she asked me what to say. I told her not to send anything unless she meant it. And I don't know. I think she's trying. Or maybe she's just scared. She keeps saying she wants to see the boys before it's too late. Too late for what? I asked. Megan didn't answer. That was enough for me. I thanked her, said goodbye, and hung up. Next, I reached out to Ben, the guy who'd brought me into the nonprofit project. I told him I had an idea for a short video series. Something personal, honest, a glimpse into parenting a neurodivergent child, not through a clinical lens, but a human one. Ben was all in. We've been needing content like that, he said. Real stories, not just infographics. You'd be the perfect voice for it. So we started filming. It wasn't flashy. Just me, Emma, and the boys at home, living life. Making pancakes, managing meltdowns, celebrating small wins, like Jonah learning to use his tablet to say outside, or Micah helping his brother line up toy trains. We talked about everything. The guilt, the grief, the grace. We didn't sugarcoat anything. Emma was hesitant at first. She didn't want our kids turned into a narrative for someone else's growth. But once she saw the raw footage, the quiet moments that never made it into mainstream stories, she was on board. This isn't about them, she said. This is for the families who feel alone, the way we used to. The videos gained traction, slowly at first, then faster. People shared them, commented, sent messages like, "This made me cry," and "I finally feel seen." One mom messaged us saying her in-laws had started treating her son differently after watching our series. I shared the first video privately with Megan. She texted back a few hours later. I had no idea. I mean, I knew, but I didn't know. Exactly. My parents didn't comment, didn't text, but I saw Mom view the video on Facebook. Twice. Then came the event. Ben's nonprofit hosted a spring gala every year, part fundraiser, part awareness campaign. This year, they asked me to speak, to share our story, live, on stage. I said yes, not because I wanted the spotlight, I hated public speaking, but because I wanted control of the narrative. My narrative, Jonah's narrative. No more waiting for people to catch up or apologize. This time, they'd hear it all. From me. 2 weeks before the gala, Emma and I sent out invitations. Real ones. No cardstock from a drugstore aisle. We went full, black tie formal. Cream envelopes, gold foil lettering, RSVP links. We invited friends, colleagues, parents from our support group, teachers, therapists, even the neighbor who always gave Jonah extra time to process when saying hello. And, yes, we invited my family. We addressed it to Robert and Elaine Holloway. No mom and dad. Just names. Facts. It was petty and precise. We sent it on a Monday. By Wednesday, Megan texted, "So they're coming." I didn't reply. Instead, I focused on rehearsing my speech. It wasn't just about Jonah. It was about everything. The years we spent trying to fit into someone else's mold. The pressure to make our child less himself so others could feel more comfortable. The grief of being excluded. The beauty of building something new. I included the Christmas story, the table that wasn't set for Jonah. I didn't name names, but I didn't have to. They'd know. And when the night came, I was ready. I stood backstage in a crisp navy suit, clutching a note card with bullet points I barely needed. My hands shook a little, but not from fear, from purpose. Emma squeezed my hand and whispered, "You're about to change someone's life tonight." Then the curtain parted. I stepped onto the stage. The lights were warm. The room quieted. Somewhere near the middle, I saw them, my parents, sitting stiffly in the second row, faces unreadable. I looked past them, past the doubt, the shame, The years of silence. I looked toward the people who'd walked with us in the hard seasons. And I spoke, not for revenge, not yet, but for truth. And when I finished, the room rose. People clapped. Some cried. But my parents? They stayed seated, stone still. Good. They were finally listening. And I wasn't done yet. They didn't speak to me after the speech. Not that night, not the next day. Not even after the video of the gala went viral, 400,000 views and counting. Not when friends tagged them in the comments. Not when local news picked it up for a community spotlight segment. Not when the message became something bigger than me. And that silence? That was the moment I knew I had won. Because silence, for people like my parents, is just denial's last breath. For weeks, they said nothing. Megan texted a few times, mostly cautious feelers. Mom's been quiet. Dad keeps watching the speech on YouTube. They're not sure how to reach out. I never responded. Because I wasn't waiting anymore. I was moving. Fast. See, while they were sitting in that second row, still trying to figure out if they should be offended or ashamed, I had already started the final act. It began with a decision I'd made quietly months before. Back in February, after everything fell apart and the dust was still settling, I'd reached out to an estate attorney. Not because I was planning for death, but because I was planning for protection. My kids, especially Jonah, deserved a future shielded from people who only showed up when it benefited them. Emma and I set up a trust. Airtight, future-proof, and private. All assets, including the house, the savings, and my new equity stake in the nonprofit's tech division, would pass directly to the boys. No probate, no interference, and no room for negotiation. But that was just the beginning. The real move came when I decided to change Jonah's godparents. Originally, in a moment of naive optimism years ago, we had listed my parents. We figured their family, and at the time, I still believed they'd rise to the occasion if something happened to us. But after Christmas? After the side table? After the voicemail? No, absolutely not. So I changed it. We sat down with Luis and Jamal, the dads from the support group. Men who knew what it meant to fight for their kids. Who'd shown up more in 6 months than my family had in 6 years. I asked them, together, if they would take on that responsibility. Luis cried. Jamal said, I already do. We made it legal 2 weeks later. And I sent copies of the documents to my parents. No note. Just facts. Here's what you lost. Here's how final it is. The next part was trickier. It required patience. See, my parents were pillars in their local church. Always hosting potlucks and prayer nights. Dad sat on the board. Mom volunteered in the nursery. Reputation mattered to them, a lot. And I knew they hated that no one in their community knew the real story. That most still assumed they were doting grandparents to all their grandkids. But the gala changed that. People started asking questions. One Sunday, a family friend messaged me. Your speech moved me. I didn't know Jonah had been treated that way. I'm sorry. Another wrote. I saw your parents at church. They looked uncomfortable when your name came up. Just thought you should know. I didn't respond to those either. I just watched the pressure build. Until the day my mother showed up at our door. It was a Tuesday. Jonah was at therapy. Micah was at school. Emma was working from the kitchen table. I was home, fixing a loose door hinge. The doorbell rang. I opened it, wrench still in hand. And there she was. Elaine Holloway. My mother. She looked smaller. Not physically, but emotionally. Like someone who'd finally realized she wasn't in control of the narrative anymore. Tyler, she said softly. I didn't invite her in. I stepped outside, closed the door behind me, and leaned against the porch post. She flinched at the barrier, but didn't challenge it. I've been trying to reach you, she said. I know. She swallowed. I saw the videos. The speech. All of it. And I didn't know, she whispered. I didn't realize how much we hurt you. I stared at her. You called my son disruptive. You told us not to come on Christmas. That's not realizing. That's choosing comfort over kindness. I was scared, she said, voice cracking. I didn't know how to handle it. I thought I was protecting the other kids. No, I cut in. You were protecting your image of what family was supposed to look like. Jonah didn't fit, so you pushed him to the margins. She looked away. I let the silence hang for a moment. Then I asked, why are you really here? She hesitated, then finally said, we want to be part of your lives again. Whatever it takes. I'll apologize to Emma. To the boys. I'll do anything. I studied her. And for a second, I almost believed her. Almost. But then I remembered the voicemail. And the side table. and the years of maybe next time and just try to make him behave. So I said this: you don't get to pick the chapter you walk back into. We're not frozen in time waiting for you. We moved on. We healed without you. And Jonah? He's thriving without ever needing your approval. Tears welled in her eyes. So that's it. I nodded. You made your choice. Now we're making ours. I turned and opened the door. But before I stepped inside, I said one last thing. You didn't lose us because you made a mistake, Mom. You lost us because you kept making it, even after we told you it hurt. Then I closed the door. No yelling. No drama. Just the clean, final sound of a chapter ending. In the months that followed, the fallout rippled. Word spread in their community. Not from me. I never once said a negative word about them in public, but from their absence. From people noticing the way Emma and I thrived without them. From the things we didn't say and the people we invited instead. At the next spring fair, Jonah rode the carousel with Jamal's daughter, laughing with his hands flapping in joy. Micah ran through the booth lines with Luis's son, both of them face-painted and sugar-rushed. Emma and I sat on a picnic blanket, arms linked, watching our boys live. Free, unapologetic, uninvited by anyone who couldn't love them wholly. And that's when it hit me. Revenge didn't need to be loud. It didn't need to be cruel. Sometimes the most powerful revenge is simply moving on so completely that the people who once made you feel small can't even find a way back in. They didn't lose us all at once. They lost us inch by inch. And we never looked back.